In Lesson 17, we'll be continuing our work with decimals. We'll be adding, subtracting, and multiplying decimals. As you view the tape, take careful notes. If you don't understand a concept or a problem that I do, stop the tape and find a tutor for some help. The first thing we want to do today is to think about how we're going to add decimals. Let's look at a problem. 6 8/10 plus 3 11/100 plus 13 plus 9 4/1000. In order to add that, we need to put our numbers down in a column. And the important thing to remember with adding decimals is we want to line things up so that our decimal will be straight and we'll have our whole numbers lined up together, our tenths, our hundreds and thousands, and so on. In other words, it's very important that when we get ready to add, that we add thousandths to thousandths, hundredths to hundredths, tenths to tenths, and whole numbers to whole numbers. So that the number you might get mixed up with is the 13. But since it's a whole number, its decimal goes behind it. So you line it up so its decimal is straight and you're adding it with other whole numbers. Remember, when you add fractions, you have to have a common denominator for your fraction before you can add them. Well, this would be the same kind of thing. To add tenths to something else, you need to add to other tenths. You need to add hundredths to other hundredths, whole numbers to other whole numbers. So we've got to, keeping that decimal straight enables that to happen. Something else you could do to estimate your answer is just to look at your add-ins and round them all off to the nearest whole number. And you can check you can come up with an approximation of your answer real quickly. Let's do that before we actually add. If we took 6.8, that would round to 7. If we took 3.11, that would round to 3. We're rounding to the nearest whole number. Then we've got 13. And then this would round to 9. So if we added that up, 7 and 3 is 10, 13, 22, 2 and 1 gives us 3. So our answer should be somewhere close to 32. So let's add and see what we actually get. Now, I have a choice here. I can just go ahead and leave things just the way they are and add them as long as I keep things straight. So I can bring my 4 down. 0 to 1, or let's go this way. 1 and 0 is 1. 8 plus 1 plus 0 would be 9. 6 plus 3 is 9. Plus 3 is 12. Plus 9 is 21. And carry our 2. 2 and 1 gives us 3. So we're going to get 31 and 914 thousandths. Notice it's very close to 32. So we know we're on the right track. Now, if it helps, you can fill in zeros for all your places and make everything have 3 decimal places. If that helps you keep your things straight, then that's what I would do. I'm not lined up completely straight with this point 11, but you do need to make sure you keep things straight. I wrote a rule down to summarize what we just said. In addition, keep your decimals straight so that you will be adding hundredths to hundredths, tenths to tenths, and whole numbers to whole numbers, and so on. So the key is keep your decimals straight. Now let's think about subtracting decimals. Remember, difference tells us to subtract, so we could say find the difference of 8.1 or 8 and 1/10 and 2 and 835 thousandths. Find the difference between those. Well, in order for us to do that difference, I again would need to line things up, so I'd be subtracting hundredths from hundredths, tenths from tenths, whole numbers from whole numbers. So let's do that. So I wrote over here for us, keep the decimal straight, just like we did in adding. That's very important. Again, if I want to estimate before I start, I could round 8.1 off to 8 and round 2.8 off to 3 and do 8 minus 3 and get 5. So my answer to this should be somewhere close to 5. Now, in order to subtract here, I need to have something to subtract 5 from. So in this case, I don't have a choice about filling zeros in. I need to fill the zeros in. So I'll have something up there to subtract from. So when I get ready, I can't subtract 5 from 0, so I need to borrow. And actually, what I'm going to do is borrow from that 10, leave it a 9. That's going to leave that a 0. And I'll put my 1 here. So 5 from 10 will leave 5. 3 from 9 will leave 6. I can't subtract 8 from 0, so I have to borrow from this 8. So now I can say 8 from 10 leaves 2. And 2 from 7 leaves 5. And you bring your decimal straight down. Keep that decimal straight. Bring it straight down, just like you would do in adding. Bring your decimal straight down. Notice our answer is 5 and 265 thousandths. When we estimated, we had over here the answer was 5. I want us to look at one more subtraction problem to make sure we know how to write this one down. This one says to subtract 6 and 72 hundredths from the 7. When you're asked to subtract a number from something, then you actually need to change the order around. The 6.72 becomes your subtrahend because you're taking it away from the 7. So this is the way it would look when we wrote it down. Now, notice what would happen in this one if we estimated. If we rounded to the nearest whole number, we'd have 7 take away 7, which would give us 0. So it means we're probably not going to have a whole number in our answer. We're probably just going to have a little decimal part of an answer. But let's go ahead and finish it. Now, I didn't put a decimal with the 7, but the decimal is behind the 7. And so that I can subtract, I'd have to put some zeros here. Now I'd be ready to subtract, and I can't subtract 2 from 0, so I like to, when I'm borrowing from zeros, I like to go to the first number where you don't have a 0. So I like to look at 70 here, and borrow from the 70, and that leaves me with 69, and then I borrow the 1, so I'm going to put it here. So 2 from 10 will leave 8, 7 from 9 will leave 2. I bring that decimal straight down. 6 from 6 will be 0. You could leave it off or put the 0, because usually when you look at an answer, if there's not a whole number, you put a 0 there to say that there's not. So there's no whole number, but our answer is 28 hundredths. Now I'd like for you to do some practice problems. The first one is 8.25 plus 6 plus 0.003 plus 19.1. Number 2, 6 minus 4.2356. Number 3, 18.1 minus 4.637. Once you finish copying these problems down, if you'll stop the tape so that you can work the problems. When you think you've worked them correctly, cut the tape back on to check your answers.